All right, how's it going, everyone? Hey, Sai, welcome. All right, we're starting a bit later today. I had some chores to do downtown, but I just got home, so yeah, it's Friday. It's a pretty chill day. We had snow for the first time in Toronto this year, so that's cool. That's exciting. That's cool, literally, because it was pretty chilly outside. I hope everyone's doing great. We're just going to continue today working on our domain-driven design application that we're building with Python. So yeah, looking to get some progress done on that, so that we can wrap it up at some point and basically create a better course out of domain-driven design and stuff like that. Awesome. Right, yeah, let's just go for it. Let's see where we ended up last time and how we should begin, basically. Oh yeah, at the end, I'm going to pick out the book for the book club that I'm starting on this live stream. There are some answers to the poll that I posted, so it's gonna be fun. Yeah, let's check it out. So far, let me see if I have everything correctly opened. Yeah, all good. I'm gonna quit this application. Nice. So far, in the last episode on the domain-driven Python stuff, we started working on the user profile aggregate, and we said that we're not going to extend the Python Django, the Django user model, but we're going to basically replace it. So yeah, let's see where we ended up with our authentication is here in the authentication application, but we have a user profile, and there should be models, say infra database models. No, it's not actually there. Let's see. There's models, there's migrations. This is the user profile with the certification, education, social links and stuff. Then we create like a, let me see. Yeah, there it is. We do have a custom user. We created a command, users repository, create. There's a user inside of the authentication. Okay, so that's where we worked inside of the authentication application. We had a user going on, and that basically, let's say not domain, infra, database, models, there's the user model. This is basically how we say to Django, we're gonna be using this user model. We're not gonna use like the default user model that comes with Django, right? So we started doing this because we wanted to log in with email and password instead of a username. We're not gonna do any usernames. We're just going to hold on a second. We won't be doing usernames. We are doing usernames, but the usernames are just the emails at this point. So we populate them, but we don't really, sorry, forgot to post in my own Discord server. That is a shame. And if you haven't joined, please do. It's a really cool place. Creatures.sh. Okay, nice. All right, so we told Django that we're going to be using our own user. We updated the authentication method to take into account the whole flow, and now on the other side we have this user profile aggregate root, which holds a reference to the user ID, which holds like a reference to the skills, resumes, certifications, educational activities, and stuff like that. So how do we do this? We're going to need another user entity or not. We do need the, actually, we're just going to add the email in the user profile, and that's going to be it, right? Yeah, we don't need an aggregate or an entity tied to a model. It's not how it works in domain-driven design. There can be two models, but one aggregate. We're just going to merge those two properties into just one entity, and that's going to be great. We're not breaking any rules with that. So yeah, let's think about that, so that we can connect everything. The idea is that we're using aggregates throughout the whole application, because we don't want to work with any library or SDK or framework data. We want to work with our own objects, with our own classes. And we're creating mappers when we need to, save to the database or return from the API as a JSON. We're not working with JSON, we're working with objects. But yeah, we're building mappers, which I think they'll call like ports, in order to reply, to whoever's invoking, the functionality, the API endpoint, or we want to save to the database. It's going to be a repository. All right, so let's figure this out. We have a user here, we have a model here, and I think it worked. And just Docker compose up this. I think the login worked nicely. We didn't have any issues. Migrations are running, and I'm just going to do, let's see, we're in the API source, virtual environment, bin, and activate. And now I'm just going to do Python manage.py run server. There we go. There's Rapid API. Server is running. So if I try to sign in with an email and password, there we go. We get a token back, a JVT token. That's how we implemented the authentication. Great. So everything is great. Everything is working fine. We just need to connect the user with the user profile, and honestly might as well just like call this user and not a user profile, because the user can have multiple profiles. This is going to be the user. It's not going to be saved as a user. So actually, yeah, let's think about this. There needs to be a way to, there's a right way. There's a right way to this. We have resumes, we have social links, we have educational activities, and these are going to these are most likely going to be tables. Evie, how's it going? Look what I can do now. Bam. You see that? Really cool. So yeah, these are probably going to be tables, and we're going to connect them to this, to this model somehow. I don't know. Maybe Avi has some ideas, but I'm thinking as tables. Last time when we streamed, we did some experimentation with composite keys. Turns out that as a feature, that's going to come to Django a bit later. There are no composite primary keys right now. Let me see. Django composite primary keys, or like partial. Actually, there is a composite primary key. And it's based on the product ID and the order ID. Beautiful. There's a reference here, a name here. And that's it. The primary key is basically these two. Yeah, I'm not trying to save the profile necessarily. I'm basically figuring out how I can have the Django user and the user profile. Should we merge things into one to make it simple, like one database model and also one aggregate, so everything's, everything works here, or should we do something else? That's That's what I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, I think it's gonna be simpler if we just go into the user and, you know, move everything here. We're gonna create these as entities, not entities. They won't be entities. They'll be value objects. Okay, interesting situation. In order to save these to the database, we need some kind of identification, right? If we want to save them as like a separate, in separate tables, we can always just get, you know, a JSON dump and save it as like a JSON field under the user profile, but I'm not sure about the pros and cons. First, it's not searchable, right? We can't really search through nested JSON objects. Second, it's going to be on, you know, tied to the user. So if we want to grab the user, hold on, I can see some issues here. Let me just check something real quick. Okay, it's all right. Yeah, what was I saying? If I save everything as like nested JSON, it's not searchable, but you know, that's one of the cons. Pros, it's simpler. Everything lives inside. We don't need to care about, you know, a table and composite primary keys and complicate things. No, just like dump it in there. It's JSON, right? Parse and serialize. That's it. Serialize and deserialize. But the other thing is, if we grab the profile, if we just want the user and, you know, to check authentication, for example, we're gonna pull in the certification, we're gonna pull in the educational activities, and these are like arrays as well. All the social links, all the positions, we're just going to pull all of these informations, this whole data set, and we just wanted to check the, you know, the freaking email or I don't know. So how do we approach this? What is the hey, I mean, thanks for the sub, appreciate it. So yeah, I think we should keep these as separate tables. That also means multiple database calls if we want to build the whole profile. But I think we have the opportunity to like use not a transaction, but to use a batch update, like a unit of work, so that, you know, we grab all this data into one database call for like performance optimizations down the road. Yeah, let's just do that then. And these can stay as value objects, even though they're going to have a primary key in the database. We don't care about that. The primary key is going to be, you know, composite. It's going to be the user ID and something else. I don't know. That's how, you know, we're going to keep them. But when we work with the user profile and the educational activities, they're not going to have an ID in the aggregate root. Maybe I'm going to make a mistake, but you know what? Let's see. Let's try. So separate tables, separate models, but these are going to be value objects. The profile itself, I guess it can stay like this. We'll just use the user ID for authentication. But once we are done with that, you know, once we're in and we want to get the profile, we'll just say, okay, give me the profile for this user ID. And, you know, just gonna grab everything from the database. All right, so let's actually do that. I feel like I should write this down. I feel like I should definitely write this down. User remains default Django, and I'm saying default in quotation marks because we did, you know, update it. So user remains default Django. User profile is a different. Actually, let me just do this. It's a different aggregate plus model. Okay, so we're not going to mix the authentication stuff for the user with the profile. Still gonna be one-to-one. One user has only one profile, but they're gonna live in like separate tables. Yeah, you know, I think it's gonna be much simpler then. And that's about it. That's about it. When we actually register a user, we're going to immediately create a user profile, attach it, you know, attach the user ID to it, and like keep it blank. And then, you know, along with in the onboarding flow, we're just going to say, okay, give us the skills, give us your previous positions in the previous companies. How about certifications? And so we're going to be constructing the profile, but it's going to be like a blank profile at the beginning. Keep the user, the Django user, but user profile is going to be just a different aggregate, and we're mostly going to work with that. All right, I feel okay with that. Here's the user ID, skills, resumes, and these are this is the aggregate root. We should not be keeping them as like a list of IDs. First of all, these are not going to be entities. They're going to be value objects. So I need to fix that, just like certifications. Let's check this message. It is not... It's not the same bounded context like this. A user in the context of the authentication is a Django user. Yeah. And in the resume context, the user is not the same, so they are separated. Yeah. What about naming though? What can you say about naming these two things? Because user profile, I would rather work with user than a user profile, honestly. I would rather work with a user than a user profile. We would keep authentication here, but we already have a user.py here. And a user class. Like this, so I hope it's not gonna clash. Or maybe I can like rename this to email user or something like that, or custom user, so that, you know, we don't clash, but we'll use user everywhere. Let's actually do that. Or authenticated user, yeah. I like that. Authenticated user is the one, the actual model. And we should also update. Actually, everything is updated because I use that thingy there. Token service doesn't care for the user. And in the presentation, username field is authenticated user. Beautiful. I feel like this is this makes sense. Thanks, Abby. Yeah, I think this is okay. And now we can rename the whole application not as like user underscore profile, but just as a user, you know. There's a user. There we go. And now we need to update a whole bunch of things. For example, this one, this one, this one. Educational activity, social links. We need to register this model. I'm actually gonna do that later. Okay, so the name is not user profile, it's just the user. In this case, let's see about URLs. Okay, and models just exports those things. So user is user, and now we should just go to the settings.py and do... Oh, we don't even register this. Do you need to save all the users at the same time? What do you mean? If I need to save all the users at the same time. User profile is successfully renamed to user, so I'm also going to rename this to just user. That's it. All the data of the user. No, I think not. That's why that's why I thought it's going to be, here's the link, by the way, to this document if y'all want to check it out. I don't want to save everything. I think it's going to make more sense to, you know, just have the user for authentication, but the actual user is the user profile. So we'll say authenticated user remains the default Django, and user is a different aggregate and a different model. It's also open beekeeper. Open millionaire. This is our database. There's auth underscore user. So our authenticated user is auth underscore user. That's the table name, basically. Yeah, maybe we should have called auth user. It's fine. And when we have our own user, basically profile, you should group what you need to save together in the same aggregate. Yeah, well, I feel like this makes sense. Like once we have a user, we register with a user, you know, with like an email or a social login down the road. We close that here, and that pretty much doesn't change. Maybe user is a too big aggregate. Maybe. We could look into that as well, like splitting it up. But the user data is this whole thing right here. So when we are creating positions, we're not creating it along with the same user. We're just going to create a position and attach it to the user. I don't know, but it, you know, with following that logic, I would just like make all of these. It feels like, you know, should just make all of those to be aggregates and go on with our day. Everything is an aggregate. Yeah, this is like what the user should hold. The data for the user should be this. We got certifications, we got educational activities, social links, resumes, and skills and positions. I've set the position to be an entity, like a nested entity, but we're not going to save everything at once. So we're not going to say, here's everything and save everything. There's going to be updates down the road where we just add one position, right? Or add a certification, etc. So these can work as like, you know, individual, but that's just an update. We'll just create a method in the aggregate. But because social links do not belong to skills, they don't belong to job listings, they don't belong to resumes, we thought that, you know, based on the exercise that we learned from Amichai, these should be value objects because they're not being used in any of the other entities or other aggregates. So they should not be aggregates, they should just be value objects, right? What would you do in this case? If you have create a position with an update of the position, you just need to have the user ID, nothing like social link, etc. Yeah. So if we need like a update position, we just need the position ID. So the position can be an aggregate. Wouldn't it be the same for like the certification as well? That's where I'm trying to wrap my mind around, you know, domain-driven design, because going by that logic makes me think everything should be, you know, an aggregate. If you can create them separately from other data. I don't know. Position already is a nested entity. That means it is going to have its own table. That's what I think. That's why thinking about what you need for each command can help. Right. So we should look at this then, right? We should be looking at the diagram that we drew. Like for example, when we sign up the user, we just need this. We just need the sign up form, and there's the user. The output is a user, or the read model, the output. Then the user itself enters past and current professional experiences, and that's how we have positions and skills. So maybe this can be split up into two. So it's like enter your positions and then enter your skills. But at the end of these two, we have the profile completed basically. And here we have certifications as well. Yeah, we have the certifications, and what else would we have? Social links, basically create your profile is what it is. So all of those things come here as well. Position, skill. And we also have if we start from the sign up, what is the data you need to create the user? Make an aggregate from that. Yeah. This is just the default Django user. We just need the email. What is going on here? Yeah, we just need the email and the passwords, right? That's all. And we did create an aggregate, and then we said, okay, then we said we need positions and skills. And they only belong to the user. They don't belong to any other thing. Only user needs to hold a reference to the positions and skills. So we set them as value objects. So, but you're right. Maybe this is a too big of a. Maybe this is a too big of a aggregate roots. Because it handles everything. It handles certifications and positions and skills. It doesn't. Resumes, it doesn't. It just handles these 4 things. And true, they do belong to the user, right? It's like add certification, you need the user. Create a position, you need the user. Educational activity, social link. And for resumes as well, you need a user, but you also need a job listing. So that's why it's not nested under the user, right? Skills, we decided to keep them separate because we want to treat them as separate as well. Like, searching job listings per skill, or searching people that possess a certain skill, or just even like a little drop autocomplete when you're entering skills. They also have aliases. But yeah, in general, that's why we put everything under one roof, or like these 4 things. But if they are, if they're their own aggregates, it's gonna be fine, I guess. We can create separate applications for them. But when we map them in Django, they're not going to have their own router. For example, right now, the authentication app, it's not an aggregate, but it has, it handles the API routes for authentication. The skill also has its own, URLs. We don't have anything. We have this left over from last time. But yeah, skills have their own router. Users will have their own router. If we create these as, as like aggregates, we're not going to necessarily define a router for them. We might have just one place where we, where we actually make the API calls. So aggregate roots. But that is like, hmm. It's basically just entities. Like they make everything into an entity and that's it. I feel like we're breaking a rule there. We shouldn't make everything an entity. I don't know. Same here. Like we have. Oh yeah, we don't have more complex stuff here. These are just like primitives. Yeah, and there's a different position here. So we're talking about two separate positions. Okay then, I guess we gotta do that. If they're aggregate roots, that means they're gonna be entities. That means all of them have their own IDs and their own tables. So we're back to, you know, the way to how we thought about designing databases and stuff. You need educational activities, just like make a table and, you know, use foreign keys to reference to build the relationships. Back to square one. Honestly, I wasn't super keen on, you know, holding these as like these three as like nested JSON or figuring out composite keys. Might as well just, you know, make them. Might as well make them aggregate roots. Let's chat with the robot. Let's see. The main entry point to a cluster of related entities and enforces consistency rules across the cluster. When to choose an aggregate root, identity and lifecycle. The model must have a globally unique identity. It can exist independently of other models in the domain. It requires its own transactional boundary. All changes within the aggregates are committed or rolled back together. That's what Avi was referring to when he says, do you need to save all of this data at once? Like, do you need a single transactional boundary to save everything, or you can like save individual pieces of them? Access by external components. It is the only point of access for external components to modify or retrieve related entities. Aggregate boundaries. The aggregate root is responsible for enforcing business rules and constraints within its boundary. Well, this to me, Django is hey Estio, yeah, thanks for the comment about, you know, Django being opinionated and stuff. We're definitely pushing it a little bit, but I think that's where the fun is, right? Let's see if we can figure this out. And yeah, Django is definitely opinionated. We do have some issues even with like registering models and the migrations and stuff. We couldn't really clean up the project, but yeah, honestly, I would just like continue pushing it. We might come up with something. Nested entities. I think these should be nested entities, by the way. These three. They should be nested entities. They should have their own ID and stuff. But they can't like there can't be there can be a certification in the wild without, you know, being attached to a specific user. So if we're talking about like the chicken or the egg, the user is the chicken it comes first. If that's the situation, it's not a chicken or egg situation. Basically, we have a user first, and then we have a certification, not the other way around. So there's definitely a clear situation where certifications need to be under the user, but instead of them being value objects, might as well make them an entity, make them, make them have their own database, just link to the users. That's it, right? The model's lifecycle is dependent on the aggregate root. That's exactly what I referred to. Do we have a public repo? Not yet. Not yet. This is just like I'm figuring stuff out. I don't want to like push it out. Yeah. But I'm gonna post if we end up pushing this. Might as well just like make it right now, make it public, but it's not documented. So yeah, I feel like that's what I explained when I was talking about the the user and the certificate. It is definitely dependent on the lifecycle of the. When the user gets deleted, the certificate needs to get deleted as well, right? We can have a certificate before having a user, so they are nested entities. Yeah. It has a distinct identity, but this identity is meaningful only within the scope of the aggregate. These are arrays. All three of them are arrays. Yeah, I feel like these should be nested entities. And they're also part of aggregate invariance. It helps maintain the aggregate's invariance, rules that must always be true. Yeah, when we need to add a certification, we go through the user. It's going to be like user.create certification or something like that. Create a new certificate, add new certificate, or add new educational activity. It's all under the user's API. Not a REST API, but like an API. Yeah. Value objects they're just immutable, do not have a unique identity. They represent descriptive aspects. Those are going to be like the skill IDs, any primitives. Damn it, I keep moving stuff. Any primitives like title, company, descriptions, dates. Company is just a name at this point. If it ends up being, if it ends up being something else, we'll just like try to reference it. But yeah, these should be nested entities. They should be entities. They shouldn't be. That's why we were struggling, actually. We should have just like figured it out that, you know what, it's better if it's, if it's an entity, have its own table, etc. And now it makes sense. Yeah. They're still going to be under the user, though. Because we need a user, first and foremost, to have all of these. Cool. Or you create a smaller aggregate user certifications where you create a new user certification only with the user ID and certification stuff, and you add it to the user certification. You have a small aggregate. Let's try to make this bigger aggregate and see, if we're making a mistake, so that we can we can see what is the thing that forces us to split it instead of like splitting it right now. Yeah. Okay, so these three, I'm just gonna cut them out and push them into the entities. And they're not gonna be value objects, they're going to be entities. There we go. Surely a user would have a many-to-many with a certification. It's gonna be like one-to-many. One user has many certifications. Well, one certification belongs to one user only. Yeah, it's like one-to-many. All right, so because this was a value object, we have all of these errors now. Now it's an entity, and we need to figure out what we should do. certification. It has a name. We have a post in it to validate like the values and stuff. So keeping this into the value object base class definitely is not a good idea because we need them. These should be like utilities. And shouldn't these be like pydantic stuff, not empty or string, validate the date, and also, there's also like a, if there's an expiration date, we want to make sure that, you know, the date is not expired, etc. I don't know. Oh, it's already done here. Yeah, let me actually do this. How to use pydantic to do all these validations. Let's see. You can see the screen, right? Yeah. Make it wider. This is still ChatGPT, but it's like a different, it's like a different plugin in NeoVim. All right. Hold on a second, actually. I don't think we need to keep a data class in this case. There's gonna be an ID. There's an entity. Well, yeah, still. EQ and hash, we don't want them to be overridden. It's not necessarily gonna be a frozen class. Frozen means immutable. It's an entity. All right, let's see. To use pydantic for all these validations, you can convert the certification class to a pydantic model. Pydantic provides models provide built-in validations for fields, which simplifies the validation logic. So we can import validator, HTTP URL, which we already have, and also base model. It says that we can extend from the base model, but I would extend it as like the second. We need the entity anyways. So let's see. Now we can create validators like this, but this is not pydantic. It is pydantic because the functionality is pydantic, but is it? I still need to do the validation and the fields, etc. Change name, self.copy, copy, update, name. And these things come from the base model. No, that's weird. I'm gonna ask it, isn't there a static method that I can use to perform all the validations in line? I don't want to create I don't want to like do the base model stuff and, you know, create my own validations. I just want to say pydantic dot validate string or something like that, and that's it. Again, with the validator. That's not static. Or maybe we should create like a validators class, put all of these validators in there, and have the both entity and value object extend that class so that we can, you know, have these methods over there. I don't feel like this is any different than the previous answer. It's again the same. We're still doing these things. And if we are doing these things, I don't need a validator. You know, I'm just gonna invoke validate date and that's it. And I'm not going to do self.copy as well. I'm just going to invoke the method that we create. It's much simpler than, you know. Okay. Yeah. I don't feel like we want to do that. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get into entity. Actually, I'm gonna get into the base value object, and all of these static methods, I'm just gonna move them. I'm just gonna move them into like a different class, and just it's gonna be like a validator class. That's it. Validator.py. And all of them are just going to be all of them. They're like 2. Yeah, just static methods, and that's it. We need to import date. Okay, that's it. So now, because we don't have this, things, you know, it will complain. So instead of self, I just need to do Tor. There we go. And now import this. So one time it likes to import it, the other time I gotta do Control Y. Okay, there's validator. Oh, there's more. Create new instance should still be there. Oh, that was right, yeah, we just need to set the name. So this is a different thing. We're not actually keeping the entities immutable. That was only for the value objects. Right, so first we want to validate, and then we just want to say self.name equals name, right? Something like that, but we'll see. Actually, I'm gonna boot up cursor, because there's gonna be a lot of repetitive stuff right now, so I just want to like fly through this rather quickly. Right, so we are in this is the user entities. Okay. Zen mode, virtual environment, cool. So I need to do self.organization is organization. There we go, there we go. See about the validations and stuff. Okay, let's go to the educational activities. These again should not be here, but there are no errors, so alright, that was weird. Okay, that's that, and now we just need to do self.organization. Is that, and delete this one. There we go. Delete that and just assign it. Nice. I like AI for this, scenario. Nice. Okay, there we go. And let's go back to the validator. And I'm just going to like rename these so they're not underscored. Good. And these didn't change? Well, hold on a second then. Oh, okay. Validate dates order. The URL is not there, so it's probably still in the base. Where is it? Base value object. There's literally no validate URL. Cool. There's no validation then. Okay, so that's that. Validate dates order is just gonna be like a self. But I'm gonna move this to the validator because I feel like it should be there. Okay, okay. No underscores. Things look good. Good, All right. Let's go back to. I'm gonna restart the LSP because we made some changes outside. So let's see. Cannot access attribute validate not empty string. Why is that? Is unknown. No, there it is. It is a static method. Ah, there we go. Because it's frozen. This is an entity. All right. And social link. A HTTP URL. Like this then. Okay, there we go. And now what happens here? Oh, they're not invalid objects anymore. They're in entities. Nice. There we go. Okay, so there we have certifications, education activities, and social links. They're tied to the user. They're entities. That means they have their own ID. That means we don't have any issues storing them into the database. We don't need like a separate composite primary key. We'll just, you know, we'll just keep a reference to them. Yeah, and also like skills and resumes, we're actually going to point to the, not the IDs, but they're like the actual objects. Probably, I don't know. We'll see. We don't even have those entities developed. We do the skill, but not the resume. So we'll circle back. But right now, yeah, they're all entities, and I don't have the question. Let me see. Someone send me a message in Slack. Okay, all good. Right. Yeah, no issue now. Seriously, I think we're cool with, you know, with the positions and certifications, and yeah, we do need to develop the position as an entity as well. And then we're going to start creating the API, the methods under the user to create a social link, damn it, to create a social link, to create an educational activity. And yeah, okay, we got 1 more hour in the stream, so let's just, you know, we're gonna continue doing that until the rest of this stream. So let's get into the positions, and then we're gonna develop the rest of the stuff. Position.py, and I'll open it here, and I'm just gonna like keep this one here so I can like pick into it. From data classes, import data class, but don't make it don't call it base entity, import entity. Yeah, let's bring in the validator as well. We don't want the hash and equality. There we go. So now we have a title, company, description, dates, and a bunch of skills. Title is going to be just a plain string. Company description as well. The position is an entity, but it's going to have a user ID, which is going to be an ID. So let's bring ID as well. Value objects, yeah. I'm gonna keep it at the top. Title, company description, dates. Dates means a start date and an end date. So start date is going to be a date. So we can import that. End date as well. And this is going to be an optional end date because, you know, what else we have? We have a bunch of skills attached to that. So skills, I'm just going to say a list of ID for now, but they're going to point to the actual list. We're gonna like refactor it later down the road. Okay, those are the positions. We need the post init method so we can validate all of these not empty or string self dot starting from the top. That's title. What's wrong with this? Oh, field name. What do you mean field name? Value and field name. Ah, right, yeah. Title. Cool. So these three, there's also validator dot validate date, so it should be self dot start date. If it is provided, then we want to validate it. What does it do actually? If it's not a date, okay. And we don't care about the skills. Okay, there we go. There's the validation. Change title. And also the new title. Might as well. Might as well. Nice. All right, let's go back to cursor because there's gonna be a lot of repetitive stuff, so we can fly through it. There's the position, change the title, and now go. Change the company, change the description, change the start date, change the end date, and also change the skills, add skill, remove skill. Beautiful. No, I'm not gonna actually do that. Skills, by default, is going to be like an empty field. No. Have we used this anywhere? Oh, we have. Nah, I don't care. Just empty array is fine. So we're not going to like change the skills. We're just gonna do add and remove. Yeah. Validate ID, is that even a thing? What is this? No. Okay, so there's the position as well, right? In the aggregate roots, we should just add positions as well. And that's going to be a list of positions in the user. Yeah, we're gonna have different positions for the job listings. But yeah, as Evie mentioned, in the bounded context of the job listings, the position is a different thing, means something else. In the user profile, the position means something else. Oh, there we go. So I need to update this. Instead of user profile, just user. Cool. There's the user, has an ID, has a bunch of skills and resumes attached to it. I would keep these again as like empty. the actual user has the first name, last name, email, you know, those kind of things. So we don't need personal data defined in this class. We just need, you know, basically this just holds references to all of the skills, resumes, and certifications, like those kind of things. Cool. All right, so these are all going to be models. So, and you don't see that. These are all going to be models. So yeah, we should just like create models for them, but not so fast. Yeah, it's better if we just write the code and then at the end we'll just write the models. All right, let's start with the certification. We have a property is expired. Change name, change organization. We should just write unit tests for these now. Actually, no, unit tests go for the applications. We don't have any for the commands. We don't have any commands for this. We just need to connect the root aggregate, create the API, the root aggregate API, so that it can work with these things like create a certification, you know, create an educational activity, etc., etc. We should do that now. All of these have their own like methods. Positions as well, change title, change company, add skill, remove skill, social links as well, change URL. Yeah, and now the user should have methods on like add certification, remove certification, add educational activity, you know, these kind of things. All right, so add certification. Let's try with that self, and we're gonna have a new certification. That's going to be an ID. But if we want to create a certification, should we? Oh, that was not it. It was this. How do we pass the data? Let's ask the robots. In the root aggregate, when we want to create a nested instance, like in this case, a new certification, which is an entity, nested entity, not instance. What am I saying? There we go. Should we pass an entity object or only the properties, only the values and construct the entity instance within the root aggregate? I feel like we've already answered this in like one of the previous streams, but I forgot, so let's see. Okay. In the root aggregates, it is generally a good practice to pass only the values and construct the entity instance within the root aggregate. Meaning, I'm not going to accept a certification object, like an already created certification. I'm going to pass the values, and we're going to create the certification inside. So, certification and anything nested, actually, all of these things, we should not be using these outside of the root aggregates. They're only being used inside, right? So if we want to create a certification, we let the user root aggregate say create certification, but we can't expose this outside, right? We should not expose this entity and create certifications outside, like, I don't know, inside of API route handlers, etc. So this should be created within the user, not outside. So yeah, makes sense that we're only passing the necessary values. Yeah, like this, add certification, and then give me all the primitives, like what is the name, the organization, dates, URLs, right? And then inside we're going to create that and append it. Like that. Okay, so I'm going to accept this and CT for theirs, and close this, and close this, and close this even. There we go. Let's just import datetime and optional. Oh, this is going to be a string, actually. It's going to be an optional string. Oh, it's str, actually. There we go. So in here, we're just going to say HTTP URL, and we're going to wrap the credential URL with this. But the method itself only accepts, yeah. And now it's optional, of course. All right, let's see. Yep, but the problem here will be that you will always use the user repository to save the entire user instead of using the certification repository to create a certificate. But you can start like this. Can I? I can't, right? Inside, well, yeah, inside of the user application, we define the user repository. That's what you were saying. And it is a really good point. So if these were root aggregates, they get their own Django applications, they get their own stuff, their own repository. Yeah. Okay. And it's going to, you know, create certificate is basically going to be, yeah, it's basically going to be like, give me the certificate. Okay. And the ID, of course, the user ID. That changes things, right? But I see it now. I see it now. Because we can't create, or we shouldn't create inside of the infra, inside here, inside of the like database, and we have like repositories. We shouldn't create the, can we create, why not, man? Actually, why not? I mean, it's within the user, right? It's within the user. Why not create the certification, the certificate repository here inside of the user application? It's only being used there. It's only being used by the user. So the user will have, it's expensive, it's a transaction. Okay, what do you mean? That's fine. Yeah. Isn't it? All the data of the user will have to be saved at the same moment. Right, because when we are in the command, we're going to get the user, find the, find the user. And then we're going to say add, add certification, or just certificate. Add certificate. And yeah, when we actually use the repository, we need to pass the root aggregate to the repository. I see your point even clearer now. Yeah. Marco, how's it going? Isn't that what transactions are for? Yeah, if we achieve the same with like how we did in the clean architecture project, we basically have, okay, here's an instance of the transaction. So, invoke all of these database queries in this transaction. Django has like a much simpler way of handling transactions. I think it's just adding like a atomic on top of the, you know, repository method, and that's it. So, but I do see Avi's point here. Like, we're still in the aggregate root. When we want to create, let's say we have an application here, a command, right? Let's say create certificate.py. I'm just going to like type it in real quick so I can, you know, illustrate it. Create certificate command. And we are going to we're going to need to have the user's repository, of course. Even if we have the other one, like a certificates repository, which lives inside as well. All right, let's see. And if I do execute self, and we're just going to have a user basically that comes from the, you know, the actual root aggregates. And yeah, there's a certificate. How did I accept this? Okay. There's the, not repository, but user.add certificate. And just like appended to add the data that we need basically. So we got the certificate here. And then we use the certificate repository. Can't we do this? Can't we do this? Cert self dot certificate repository save certificate, and then pass the. Can't we do this? In the command handler, you get the user ID, get the aggregate you want to modify it, save it, dispatch. All right. Right, yeah. It's basically the user ID. It's going to be a number, an integer, I feel like. And then user equals users self users repository dot find user, and it's on the email. We'll see about this when we actually get the API endpoint. I feel like we're gonna get something from the request, because there is like an authentication middleware that I think attaches the actual user. So it's not gonna be an ID, but it might be like an user email. Email equals user email. So there's the user from the repository. Of course, we need the mapper to map the, you know, the database user to the actual root aggregate. So this user is going to be the aggregate root. We're going to create the certificate. It's, you know, returns back the certificate, and then we save it. But is this an aggregate root? Like, is this an aggregate root by definition? Yeah, I missed a few episodes. Do you have any app feature done? Not yet. We're still, you know, wrapping our minds around, or I'm wrapping my mind around the whole pattern. As you use mediator pattern, it's a command bus, so you can have middlewares that provide the user ID, authenticated user, to all the command handlers. Yeah. We don't need to like pass. Yeah, I got it. So we'll get that user. We can get that user, just as we did before, like this. If we did a mediator, you know, injection thingy, execute this. We're gonna add the certificate. We're gonna get the certificate, and we're just gonna pass it to the certificate repository. Is this an aggregate route? A correctly, you know, is this a correct way or not? Because technically, even the certificate repository can be defined inside of the user, although it's gonna be like, I don't know. I wouldn't expect it to find it inside, right? It's Django. Hey, how's it going? Not like this. If a certificate is saved, it is the aggregate root. Ah, right. Yeah. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Actually, let me leave the message on. I totally forgot about that. Yeah. Repositories only accept aggregate roots, right? They only accept aggregate roots, and they save the whole aggregate roots. One repo by aggregate. Yep. Yeah. Totally forgot about that rule. All right. Good point. This is the moment where we say, these should be actual aggregates and not nested entities. So we started from value objects. Man, we tried everything. Look at this. we started as, you know, having these as like value objects, like JSON dumps or, you know, something like that. And then we created them into, like, we transformed them into entities because we figured, you know what, we're gonna need IDs. And now we're like, you know what, these should be aggregate roots because we want to, you know, we have a user, we have everything, we just want to add one certification, link it to the user, and that's it. We don't want to save educational activities or retrieve them or social links, etc. Yeah, we just need to save one cert. I just got a certificate today, I want to add it to my profile. That's it. We're not saving, you know, all of these, just one. And that makes it an aggregate. Because we need the ability for it to be, you know, saved to the database as like a standalone object. Is it linked to the user? Yeah, that's just like a property, but it doesn't need to be nested. Yeah. And then in Django, if we want an API endpoint for that, we can actually, why not? /API /certificates, and then we'll just, you know, we'll do a post on /certificates, and that's a creation method. Yeah. Yeah. The big mistake is that we always do is to think about the user as the central thing. Most of the time you just need, you know, its ID, and that's it. Yeah. I think I've read this. Like, you know, a common mistake or a common pitfall in domain-driven design is that you glue every single thing to the user. Because that's the point, right? It's the users. Yeah. At the end, everything is related to the user. We have an application, and if we need authentication, most likely everything is going to be tied to that user. That's why we have users in the first place, right? To keep things. But it doesn't mean that it needs to be under the umbrella of the user. It just needs to, you know, have its ID and point it. That's it. Yo, okay. Yeah. It's good to, you know, it's good to make the mistake yourself. So that, like, you can understand why people are saying these things. All right, check this out then. These go out as aggregates. Need more space. I'm just gonna like create nested figures. As you place your tests on command handlers, you check the outcomes so you can refactor with minimum impact. Yeah, that's I already covered that in like the previous, not the previous episode, but the one before that last week. Alright, so there we go. We have the aggregates here, and we can like I don't know, make more space. And we want to isolate these. We want to isolate these four as their own, you know, as their own. Let me just like move these. Aggregates. They're gonna be red backgrounds. They're gonna be black texts. And what about you? There we go. Right? Extra large. Damn it. Okay, so yeah, this definitely changes things. Yo, come on. Let me be. Why don't you want to resize? There we go. And social link. And this can be this. Okay, we got some new aggregates now. These belong to the position. We'll define the certification, and we already have in the code. We just need to treat them as like separate. So a bunch of skill IDs, a bunch of resumes, one user ID that holds reference to the user, and again, like certificate IDs. Yeah, we're creating the complex application, but we're actually suffering from the drawing application. Right, so a whole bunch of certifications, and then a whole bunch of positions. What else did we have? Educational activities and social links. I'm gonna make this one shorter. Social links, social. There we go. And now this is the user aggregates. But check this out then. All we have are just lists of IDs. These are not complex. Now, we're not gonna do this then. This aggregate is simple enough, at least its model is simple enough that we can actually move these and have them, you know, be as part of the built-in user. Here's authentication user, auth user. It has already these things: super user, username, first, last name, email, right? Might as well just like add a bunch of IDs, arrays, and that's it. you know? So we don't have the user ID reference. When we actually get the user from the database, we're going to pull it along with the IDs of its certificates and stuff like that. So if we want to, you know, like, what was that? If we want to add projection, right, just like to the IDs, we can add that. But I feel like we don't have anything nested now. We can just add these as like an arrays of integers, which is going to be the IDs. What do you think? So this is not going to be the case anymore. Authenticated user is going to be the user. It's going to have all of these things. It's not going to have a user ID because it does have a user ID by itself. But it's just going to have, you know, hold the references to these, the new data types. Yeah, let's actually do that then. User is a modified Django abstract user that holds refs to certificates, skills, resumes, positions, these, and social links. Yeah, there we go. That's the decision, and it's gonna be pretty easy because look at it. Look at it. I'm going to remove this. We don't need it. We're gonna like do a lot of refactoring now, but check this out. Come on, authentication. We don't have a domain model inside, but basically user is going to be this. This is the representation on Django, not the way data will be saved on the DB. Do you have the to take care of the DB normalization? What do you mean representation on Django, but not the data the way that will be saved on the DB? That's what I'm saying. Like, let me show you the actual model here. Infra Django, not Django, but database models user. Here's the modified Django user, right? It pulls all of the stuff that we've seen, but it also adds an email and makes the username field to be the email field so that we can log in with email. But this is basically, we're modifying the user. We can just add, you know, we can just add these as fields and keep them in the database like that. Keep them as like arrays of integers. That's what I'm saying. So if we keep them in the database like that, the repository will return them as strings. So if we need to like, if we need to fetch the skills or populate basically the rest of the models, we can easily do so by, you know, using the other repositories. Yeah. Like if you're relating two tables in a M2N relationship, usually there is an intermediary table, yeah, like a junction table to handle the relationship instead of adding an arbitrary amount of rows to a table. Right, yeah. You mean like keeping the array, right? Like a list of items. I was doing some research on that. And like there seems to be arrays in PostgreSQL. Columns of a table to be defined as a variable length, multi-dimensional arrays. So like we can use we can create an integer array, and that's how we can hold the, you know, all of the skills attached to this user. I was thinking we did this. I haven't tried arrays, to be honest. I haven't tried arrays in databases. I usually created like junction tables, but this is how they get kept. This is the user, and these are the user's skills. So I figured we'll just do this then. Yeah, I don't expect that we're gonna do like searching. Should we? Or actually, we do expect that we're gonna do searching. It's gonna be like, okay, give me all the users that possess this Or maybe we can. It's Postgres. It has to have like a accessing arrays. It has to have the in modifying. Yeah, there we go. Searching in arrays. To search for a value in an array, each value must be checked. This can be done manually if you know. Oh, hold on a second. Ah, yeah, there we go. So, for example, we hold 4. Oh, look at that. Look at that. This quickly becomes tedious, and it's not helpful in the size of the array is unknown. It is. It is described in section 925. The above query could be replaced with like select everything from users, where skill ID is any skills. So that's how we can find, yeah, we can use the any. Right? So we can even like search, get all the users that contain this skill ID into their skills array. I guess arrays are fine. We don't need junction tables in this case. If we can hold an IDs of integers to point to like certifications and stuff like that. And skills, I feel like skills are gonna be like the only thing that we need to search for. Everything else should be just keep it there so that we can populate it later. You know, like building the whole user profile. We're not gonna search for like give me the users that have been in this company from this time to this time on this position. Probably it's like a single user. Yeah. But it's good to see that, you know, there is searching in arrays and that we can, it may be problematic. If you have a large number of skills, if they will grow slowly, it's fine. But if they grow exponentially, then it might be very, very slow. True. Yeah. I don't know. We are using, it's a totally different approach. My first instinct would be to create a junction table to marry these two. Which again, the aggregate roots should not be, you know, it shouldn't worry or like shouldn't care about it. But when you have junction tables, how do you define repositories when you have junction tables? How's that? How do those two things correlate to each other? We have a repository, and we're using the Django ORM, which is basically using the models directly. But yeah, let's see. Django atomic transactions. Yeah, it's literally just my view, do stuff, and this is a single transaction and that's it. Django takes care of the rests. There's the atomic transaction. And this can be within the, like this is going to be the repository method. Create something, and it's going to be atomic. And then there's also the context manager, I think it was called, yeah. Right. Okay. Okay, so let's see. I feel like we should keep it. We should keep it as an integer array, and like see if, you know, if we need to fix this down the road. You will not use the repositories to query the data in DDD. Wait, what? What do you mean? Repositories save data. I thought they like split the database implementation, like isolate the database implementation from the rest of the code. So you say we're gonna use instead of commands, we're gonna use queries for reading, but the queries will use the models directly inside. Is that what you're saying? Whew, you can use views in views also, etc. Yo, okay. I was not expecting that. I thought that we just... Yeah, I thought that we have... Let's see. We have like a route handler, which will either invoke a command or like multiple commands, or a query. And we'll just connect these as well. And then these will converge again into a repo. And then, you know, have the repo. Damn, I messed it up. But you get the gist. I thought this was the actual way things go. On my previous work, we had a very slow query on the database because it was doing searches inside strings. We serialized JSON and saved because MySQL is dumb and doesn't support cool data types. Right, yeah, but I feel like in this case, Postgres won't cause that much damage because it is like built in, right? Junction table, and that allows us to index the column and make search go from 20 to 40 seconds to 1 second. Nice. Nice. Yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe we can ask ChatGPT. Repos are there to save aggregates. Good point. Good point. All right, so let's do that then. I'm gonna ask ChatGPT about keeping, you know, stuff into arrays, or do we need junction tables? And yeah. Let's ask the robots. Okay, so let's say in PostgreSQL, arrays of primitive types are supported natively. You can also search within arrays. I'm building an application where the user model holds references to multiple certification models. I plan to keep the certifications IDs into an integer array inside of the user model. Is searching for users that have a specific certificate going to be slower than using a junction table? Let's see. I hope it understands. It's convenient, but it has trade-offs in terms of query performance. There we go. Scalability and data normalization. Here's an analysis. Integer array approach. Searching within an array can be done using like any. Supports generalized inverted index (GIN) for arrays, which can improve the search performance for specific elements. However, as the number of users and certifications grow, querying the array and maintaining the index can become slower compared to a normalized setup. Gin indexes, while efficient, are generally slower than B-tree indexes, which are used in normalized tables, or just like value to value. Okay. Yeah, junction table, user certification, certification ID, user ID, and that's it. Right. Will outperform the array approach as your dataset scales and provides the added benefit of normalization and query flexibility. True, yeah. Yes, it does. So, junction table it is then. We're not gonna gamble, you know. It's good to like see that it's possible for like smaller, for smaller types. I don't know. Or maybe we could use something like, I don't know. We're not gonna search for for positions and stuff. Let's go back to the drawing. We would only search for skill ID. Maybe even resumes as well. But not positions, not social links, not educational activities or certificates. These are just like, yeah. Maybe certificates. But yeah, let's just like keep them in you know, keep them in junction tables. Don't use arrays in PSQL. Use junction tables to save or to persist refs from user to other tables. I'm not even looking at user to. Oh, there we go. I think if you have something like a dozen item on the array and querying it is not super common, that would be easier solution. Yeah, I was thinking for, you know, maybe positions and educational activities, social links as well. We're not gonna say, okay, which user has this link. We're not gonna say that, right? We're gonna say, okay, give me the user, and now give me all the rest of the, you know, the links that it holds. We're not gonna be looking for users based on the social link or activity, etc. The only thing that we could look for users is like skills. Give me all of the users that have the React .js skill, so that, you know, we have a list of them. If you're expected to do searches on the number of items or the number of items grows, junction may be better. That's what I'm saying. I would expect, or like I would like to leave the opportunity for users to be searched or discovered by skills. So I think, yeah, so let's just go with the junction table. That was my initial plan and like a default approach. We have two tables and we need to connect them. Yeah, a third table it is. It's how they taught us at the university. But arrays, we have arrays now. It's pretty cool. Let's see. Should we just like treat everything as a junction and, you know, accept the complexity for consistency? Let's do that. Let's just use junction tables. All right, let me catch up on the messages a bit. It's probably Postgres, some magic under the hood. If you remember, you designed the aggregates using commands. Yeah, with domain events. Yeah, I don't get the issue person because you search for it. Because you search for skills for a user. Skill has the user ID. Right. No, we were talking about the other way. Like, give me all the users that have this skill. In that case, this field needs to be searchable and indexable so that, you know, our queries are reasonably fast. And arrays versus junction tables win in that case. Yeah. Okay, so nice. This is going to be the user, and it's just going to hold references using junction tables to these data types here. Yeah, that was the plan. Okay. Whew. All right, we're still like in design mode. We're still not even like writing actual, actual code, usable code. Okay, so this changed. Honestly, position, skill, social, yeah, technically, inside of the aggregates, well, we don't even need a user aggregate right now, do we? Because if we want to create a skill, we're just going to use the skill aggregate and we're going to pass a user ID. If we want to create what was the other one's position, we'll use the position aggregate and just pass the user ID. So all of these just receive a user ID. That means we don't even need a user aggregate, right? We have the user ID, that's the user, but all of these are aggregates themselves, except the user ID. We don't even need this because this is going to be the user. Or if all of these are aggregates, then we don't actually need this user aggregate. It's not gonna do anything. Yeah. Yeah. This is gone. Woo! All right. I'm gonna keep these here. Create these as like just like figures so that we know that they're separate. There we go. We can expand on them. We don't need to like just waste time right now, right here and right now to do that. This is fine. This is okay. Yeah, these are our new aggregates now. And honestly, it makes sense, if you ask me. I like how we made like the user not an aggregate, but present everywhere with just the ID. And everything else is an aggregate, and it, it validates, it creates, it writes to the database, it does everything by itself. That's good. Nice. Nice. All right, let's grab the shovel and, start shoveling. So in this case, we have the authenticated user and we're not going to touch it. We want, we're just going to use junction tables, but those are basically going to be models that link the user with something else. And that will come last because we need to create all the other models first so that we can create the junction tables as well. So that's good. Come on now. Messed up my angle. I thought I would start using the TL draw instead of this application, because this is a paid application and I don't want to like, honestly, I don't want to pay for a drawing application, but it is really cool unless they sponsor me. If they're watching this stream for some reason. I was thinking about like TL draw, but I really like this one. All right, aggregates. Where are we now? We have the user table. We just need to create the rest of the model so that we can create the junction tables. That means there's not going to be a user. Let me hide my camera. There's not going to be like a user application inside of Django. The authentication will remain because we're going to have the users over there. And all we need to do now, it's not just like simple, all we need to do now is just like convert these into their own applications, basically. Because they're going to have their own APIs, they're going to have their own everything, right? And it's already noon, So we're at time. You know what? This was actually good. I'm gonna try to find some time this weekend and just go through like all of these entities and convert them to applications and aggregate routes, because then that's not really meaningful work, you know, to do it on stream. It's better if I just take my time and, you know, do it over the weekend and just like go through all the changes that I've done on Monday. So let me write a note. Convert entities into aggregates. Yeah, convert the entities into aggregates during the weekend so that I can, you know, we can continue with the rest of the stuff. Delete user. I'm gonna delete the user application. Convert these into, there's not gonna be like any value objects as well. There are no. Convert these into aggregates. And yeah, I think should be good that way. And I'm like really curious when Evie said that, you know, let me highlight that message again. You will use direct SQL in queries. You can use views also, etc. So like we're gonna have queries and commands. Commands use aggregates so that they can repos save data. Oh, damn, I have like a auto scroll. Repos save data. We will use direct SQL or just like the ORM in the queries, not the commands. And where was the other message? There we go. Repos are there to save aggregates. We're saving with repositories, and we're creating aggregates because we need to save all of them in like a single transaction, basically. So that's the thing. That's the domain-driven way. Domain-driven design. I thought it was like something else, honestly. I should have read the book before embarking on this journey to build a project, but I don't know. I'm learning a lot, and I hope, you know, a lot of you folks watching as well. But yeah, I thought it was like, what if we like group this, group that, and, you know, have everything through one. But it's not really far off to how I've approached, you know, building software. It's not really far off, which is good then. I guess it's, you know, I'm happy to hear that, to acknowledge that. All right. Yeah. Let's just, you know, let's put an end on this stream now. I'm going to take the time during the weekend to go through all of these changes that we have planned, and on Monday at the same time, I think I should be good. Let me just like double check and make sure that yep, Monday is good. Oh, Tuesday is Christmas as well. We're definitely streaming on Monday. We might cancel it on the Wednesday, because Wednesday is again Christmas, so we might do that. But yeah, Monday is, yeah, we're definitely streaming. Let's do that then. Let me do all of these things during the weekend so we don't, you know, spend our streaming time on menial stuff. I'm gonna convert all of these things, refactor everything, and then we can take it from there. All right. Yeah, this was a good good stream. We're not building the application yet, but we're learning so much, and that was the point. The point was to actually to learn, not to like build a new company with this. If I end up, why not? But education first, and then we'll see. If you need some info about what I would suggest, we can check on Discord. Don't hesitate. Of course, yeah. If I hit a wall again while during my refactoring this weekend, I'm definitely sending a message in Discord. And yeah, all right. Good session, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm gonna have a good weekend, and I'm gonna see you all on Monday. All right.